So in this part of the video, we're going to be showing you the next step, which is to add some text using one of our rhinestone fonts. Now we provided you our single line Macy May font in the download with this basketball mom design. And that's the one we're going to be showing you some of the different options you have available. So what we're going to do here is grab our text tool and we're just going to type in a word. In this case, we're going to type in basketball. It could be anything that you want, but we're going to type in basketball. And then we can change to our Macy May font. So we would just come down our font list here. Here's our EEST single line Macy May. And what we do is we tell you the approximate size of the font, what the font is supposed to be depending on the stone size that you're using. So in our case, we're going to be using SS6 stones for this text, and we tell you that it's supposed to be about 1.4 inches. Now if you look up here, this is where we can define the height and width of our text, and right now it's in millimeters. So to define 1.4, we'll do 1.4 inches. We'll just override the millimeter and hit enter, and look at there. We get the word basketball, which is exactly 1.4 inches tall. Now, the next thing we need to do is we need to work with these stones individually. And if we zoom in really tight, you can see that our holes are just a little bit wonky. They're not exactly perfect circles, and that's pretty indicative of most rhinestone fonts. But that's okay because we want to convert these to an actual rhinestone as it is interpreted by our EasyStone macro. Again, most of your rhinestone programs have a similar function. So what we need to do first, though, is we need to break this word apart into individual stones. And of course, because that's something that we do a lot, we have a function here in EasyStone to take care of that for us. So on our editing tab, if we select our text object, we can choose break our text. And now you can see that each one of these is now a separate stone. Okay. Now if I zoom in really tight here, let me just show you how the one works, and then we'll do the whole thing. Back over here on the stone tab, right now I have a size of stone defined, which is 2.3. You can see that this circle is not a perfect circle. But if we choose the resize replace function, now you can see the circle is in fact a perfect circle for cutting your template. So what we need to do is just select the whole kit and caboodle here and choose resize replace. And now all those, you see, no matter where we look, there will be a perfect circle. And if we really wanted to, we could say, hey, I'm going to be using crystal stones. So we could choose the rename and fill. And EasyStone now knows that those are all SS6 crystal stones. Okay. So, but I do want to show you one other small tidbit, and that is when you're working with our rhinestone fonts or any rhinestone font, we can apply that to an object. So in this case, I'm going to just draw out this kind of oval shape. And once again, I am going to grab my text tool, and let's just go ahead and type out a word again. And let's call it, maybe what we'll do is I'll show you something. We'll do Kevin's mom. Okay, so there's Kevin's. And then what we're going to do here is we're going to switch over to Macy May, right? Now remember, Macy May is 1.4. So 1.4 inches, right? And that gets us pretty close. Okay, so here is Kevin's mom. Okay, so we'll go now we want to pay attention to the point size right here. So we know that this text is 1.4 inches tall. That point size is 150. And I'll explain why that's important here. So let's go ahead and delete that. And let's go back in to our text tool here. And if I hover over the edge, right here, hover over the edge, you get that little swirly line below the letter A. You see that? Once you get that, we can click, and we can then change our font if we want to. Change our font point size. Remember, we're going to do 150. And now we can type in the word Kevin. Okay, so now we've typed in the word Kevin. Now we can move this wherever we want to. We can move it inside. We can pull it outside. Wherever we want to put this, we can put it wherever we want to. So that's kind of nice to have that flexibility. The other thing that we want to look at too is see these tiny little control points? This allows us to adjust each individual letter, and we see this happen a lot, especially when we're working on curves. Look at the distance between the letter K and the letter E. It's rather significant, that distance. And that happens a lot when we're working on curves. So we can modify that. You could go into your paragraph formatting and change the formatting between characters. That would be one way to do it. So let me just show you that. We can come in here, choose our spacing, come to our character spacing, and if we just keep nudging this till we get it approximately where we want it, right? So we just go ahead and keep on doing that till we get the spacing we want. And that gets us close, but even look at here between the letter V and the letter I, there's a little bit more spacing there than I would like. So what we can do, if I go ahead and decrease the letter spacing, I want to get the letter K and E about where I want it. Let's go ahead and do that. So the letter K, E, the letter E, V, that spacing's good. This spacing is a little tight on the I and N, and this spacing is a little bit loose between the V and the I. And this happens a lot when you're working with different fonts. So let's go ahead and grab our shaping tool and make those adjustments. All I have to do is grab that node and see I can slide that. See how it like sticks to the curve? I can slide that wherever I think is makes it look good. And so I can change that spacing and get it just exactly where I'm looking to get it. Just get that spacing just exactly how I want it. And once I'm happy with that, then I can adjust the spacing between the I and the N. But once I adjusted the I and the V, I think the I and the N looks okay. See? So we can go ahead and leave it at that. And then what we can do is we'll go ahead and snap another piece of text. So we'll go ahead and just snap it down here. Again, we will change the point size to 150. We will change the font to the Macy May. And we'll type in the word mom. And then we can mirror the text. See, we can mirror it horizontally and vertically. And once again, if I grab my pick tool, I got this little control handle where I can control exactly where I want that to go. So I can come over here, something like that maybe. And now you can see again, because of this curve, now these are really too tight together. So this is where the character spacing might come into play. We can go ahead and modify that, increase our character spacing till we get that a little bit more appropriate. And that's close, right? So we'll go ahead and maybe do a little bit more. But the letter O between the first M is not exactly where we want it. So we'll grab our Shape Edit tool and we'll just go ahead. And remember, when we pull it, it kind of stays right on that line, which is really a nice feature. And so we can just adjust that letter O. Now the space between the first and the second M is just where we want it. So there is that. So we'll go ahead and select the whole works, and we can convert the whole works to curves. And we should be able to pull away just the curve object here. Well, let's go ahead and convert to curves. Convert to curves, and then we can get rid of that part of it. All right, and then just like before, if I wanted to, I can come in here and kind of center up that a little bit. But in order to, in fact, why don't we just delete this bottom one? If I want to double check the stone size and replace those stones, we'll go back to our editing tab and choose the break our text. And now we have individual stones here, right? And so then I can come in and make a selection. So, you know, if we come in here to make a selection, we're going to select other parts of our design. And so here in Easy Stone, we have a function where we can mark an object for selection. And then I can select all kinds of objects and say, pick up just the ones that match the fill of the one I marked. And then we can come back to our Stone tab, choose the Resize Replace function. And that took care of that, right? So then we go back to our selections and mark another black object here. And then again, we could say pick up the objects that match our fill. And now we have just all of our black objects which I can then define a color for. So maybe I'll change those to orange and choose the rename and fill. So that takes care of that. And now I can come in, go back to our selections tab, mark one of those orange objects, and now we have all kinds of objects. But again, I can say, just give me the ones that match the fill. So I have all my letters and some of my basketball, but that's okay, because all I'm going to do is hit the rename and fill button to tell EasyStone that those are all orange objects. And that's really all there is to it. So now we have a design that we can send to the cutter, that we know that the hole sizes are 2.3, 2.3, right, 3.2. Everything is set up exactly the way we need it. And now we have a better idea of some of the different options we have available when we're working with our rhinestone text, and how to take advantage of some of the features here in EasyStone to make that working and manipulating rhinestone text just a little bit easier here inside CorelDRAW. Thanks for watching.